Hey everybody, it's Jeff Slakey from the Alderbrook Resort at the Affordable Workforce Summit put on by Peninsula Credit Union and other great organizations around the community. I'm now talking with Lisa Perry, the Washington Public Relations Manager for Sierra Pacific Industries. Hi Lisa, how you doing?
Hey Jeff, good to see you.
I want to talk a little bit about Sierra Pacific in Shelton and Mason County. Tell me a little bit about the workforce, the age, the range of education, and where they live.
Yeah, I mean, we probably are a little bit unique in this at the summit this year because we announced in 2015 and actually started at the end of 2016. So we've actually employed 270 people since then.
Wow.
We brought in about 25 to 35 people at the beginning, and since then we've hired from either local or some people have heard about us and moved to the area from other companies and things like that. So our workforce is probably a little bit younger than was in the previous inhabitants of the waterfront site, and we're almost. I just pulled a zip code analysis of our employees, and almost 70% of them live in Mason County, which is a lot higher than the previous inhabitants of the waterfront site that was between 50 and 60%. So we have a lot of people living locally because it's really important to our company.
I know that especially in the higher echelons of the management positions, that Sierra Pacific encourages and requires even people living close to where they work. Is that right?
Yeah, requires is probably a little hard. Suggest is probably closer to it. It makes life easier for one thing. I mean, for several reasons, just logistically. We have a lot of shift work and those kinds of things, but it's important for us. One of our visions is to grow healthy communities, one of our missions in the company. And so it's important for us that our managers are Little League coaches and chamber chairs and things like that. So it's really important that we live and breathe in our communities.
How would an increase in affordable workforce housing benefit Sierra Pacific Industries in Shelton?
It would be great. I mean, a lot of my time spent when we first got here was for those 35 people that came in, trying to find them housing. And when I did that zip code analysis, we have about 14% living in Grays Harbor and Thurston, and I think almost half of those would probably live even closer if there was those kind of housing opportunities.
What about the rest of Sierra Pacific in general? Do folks live closer to the mills in the other areas that you guys have?
Almost all of our mills, just by definition, are in timber-dependent communities, so they do probably tend to live a little bit closer. We don't live in the large suburban areas, so and it is a company-wide policy to have people be involved in the communities, so I think it's probably about the same.
When you talk about affordable workforce housing, you talk about where people go at the end of the day, but does those types of houses help Sierra Pacific and their bottom line, either when it comes to the building and the building materials that you're able to provide, but then also just as a benefit to the workforce that happens to live closer?
I mean, nationally, if we have more building starts happen, that's going to be good for our industry. I mean, that's one of the things that's been, since the recession, we keep a close eye on. I think it's really important that we live and work here just because, I mean, not only is it the housing and things like that, but it's if you don't live in the county, if you drive in to go to work, you don't buy groceries here, you don't buy gifts here, you barely buy gas here. So I think it's important for several reasons for our communities that work that close.
So you were talking about 35 workers, families coming in. You needed to find housing for them, the struggles that you may have faced. Are you able to, being such one of the larger employers in Shelton, talk to the city leaders and even the county leaders about ways to help improve the processing, the permitting, to bring these types of affordable housing, and then I guess also statewide just to help with your product being used in the building of additional homes?
We definitely, I mean, we not only talk to city and county leaders, I mean, as part of being on the chamber board, that's a big thing. We talk about permitting and fees and all those kinds of things. But we're also involved in all kinds of levels where we can, even private partnerships where we can help Habitat for Humanity build houses, or we are just donated some wood to do the disabled vets house that they're getting the keep for pretty soon. So there's lots of ways that we can partner, and I think the private sector will, if they see a way to make it economically feasible, will step in. And anytime housing starts or increase, it helps our business. So
what are some other ways that you're trying to get more workers to be in the Shelton area, or has Sierra Pacific already kind of maxed out the capacity of workers? Are you looking for more shifts, or I mean, is that something in 2019 that?
We're still looking for employees. We still probably need to hire about 10 or 15 more employees, so we're doing that. I mean, we're working with the schools. One of the reasons people come to, especially with families, move to an area is for the schools, so we're doing a lot of partnerships with the schools. We're going to have some exciting announcements coming up the next month or two with a partnership with the schools. We're doing some of the local rental companies actually worked with us when we first got here, where they allowed our employees to fill out one application, and it could be used at all three, so they didn't do application fees.
Okay.
So this community has been super welcoming and super helpful for us. Some of the real estate agents talked some clients into moving a house off the market into a rental status so that our employees could be there because they knew they'd have a good, stable job. So we're working this from several angles because, again, we want people to be in our town.
Let's talk about the income for the workers. Where does that fall on the affordable workforce housing index that we've been talking about today?
Yeah, so the index that Jim showed in his presentation this morning, our average hourly wage is in the high end of that percentage that he showed us. So it's definitely in this, it's over the median, but it's in the end. So, and the nice thing about our wages, especially with, again, that we're new, is people have been able to start at the low end of that and move up very quickly. I mean, we promoted people to where they're making double what they were before they came to work for us. So I think we've moved a lot of people up to the upper end of that affordable, what do you call it, median wage.
Sure. And is that the Sierra Pacific Industries model to be able to afford to support the employees in a way that would help them with some upward growth potential in their housing and more?
Yeah, the on-the-job training models in our company is one of our claims to fame, I would say. We have, the mill manager here in town started shoveling sawdust when he was 18, and he's a mill manager now. So I think that's one of our claim to fame is you can do it with on-the-job training, you can do it with going to trade schools, you can do it with all sorts of ways to get ahead with our company.
How many units would you say would be enough for you to work if they had the availability for the people to move into the community? What would be a number that would be just the right number for you to get a full employment or have the housing availabilities?
Well, we only need about 10 or 15 more employees, and some of those could be hired from people who already live here.
Oh,
so
okay.
it wouldn't even need that. I'm hoping to find people that are already here. I think people don't understand what opportunities are available. I see all these people driving to Olympia for work, and some of them are making less per hour than they could right here at home, not to mention the commute costs. As being on the chamber board, I think if we got a couple of, medium-priced apartment buildings, some duplexes, it's not going to take that much to make this work. It's just getting over that hump of getting just a few of those in. We talked about having one good-sized apartment buildings and about 12 different duplexes, and it would make a huge difference in this community.
So if that were to come to fruition, how would Sierra Pacific be able to interact with this public-private partnerships? Would it be a subsidy on timber perhaps to build these things, or how does all those things work out?
My guess is those kind of things might be too long-term to really solve it right this second.
Sure.
So I think we can work with the city and the county to figure out ways to make it affordable, to maybe something to do with incentives for multi-house. I mean, that's been talked about a lot already in this conference. I don't know that Sierra Pacific in general will do that. It's just our working with leaders to see that we can use existing infills. I mean, we've got lots. That was an interesting statistic they brought up, that a third of the units in this county are not full because they're either vacation homes or VRBOs. Maybe there's something that could be done with that.
Wow.
I don't want to take anybody's property rights away, of course, but yeah, I think there's some just creative ways. There's a new opportunity zone funding, and some of that land could be easily used for that'd be a great way to get an apartment complex financed. So I think there's some tools out there right now that we don't have to wait for.
Lisa Perry is the Washington Public Relations Manager for Sierra Pacific Industries. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks. Good to talk to you.